Yeah, I'm excited about being here. Looking forward to the opportunity, and I think this is an exciting time for the whole organization, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Sweet. Thanks, Coach. We'll go first to Dan Weedier. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey Dennis, how are you? Welcome to Chicago.
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. First and foremost, wanted to get a feel for how you and Ben got connected. He kind of alluded last week that you guys hadn't really met before any of this started. So, what was the initial connection?
Yeah, I think at some point, as we got later in the season, he reached out to me just to see if I would be interested. I told him that I would be interested. I think it's probably a product of just the same connections. Dan, Aaron, all of us were at A&M together at some point in time, or had that connection. We're all on the staff there in New Orleans together. I was with Terrell Williams. He was with me in Oakland, and so I just feel like I had connections to Ben, although I didn't really know him. And I just think him leaning on those guys in reference to me, and me leaning on those guys in reference to him, I think we both felt like it was a really good fit.
League wide, you've got a pretty strong reputation as being aggressive and leaning into man coverage principles pretty heavily. How do you describe philosophically what you want your defenses to be and look like?
Yeah, I think we want to be an attacking, aggressive style of defense. I think we want to take the fight to the offense and not let the offense dictate the tempo to us. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to challenge everything. We're going to play the game the right way. We're going to play it tough, physical, you know, brand of football. And I think the brand of football that you come to expect at the Chicago Bears.
We'll go next to Pat Finley from the Sun-Times. Go ahead, Pat.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, Pat.
Hey, I was curious, as you knew that this was a possibility, did you study the Bears defense? Did you watch them at the end of the season? And what do you make of the pieces that you have? Because this is a unit that started the season really strong and ended it not quite as strong.
Yeah, well, look, the answer to the question is yeah. I took a look a little bit at the pieces on defense. I felt like there were some pieces in place. In particular, I think there's some things that we have to have in the secondary that I like. I think there's some pieces at linebacker that I'm encouraged by. I think there's a couple of spots up front that I feel like we've got some players. So I think the foundation is there defensively, and I think, look, when Ben asked me if I would be interested, there was a couple of places that I felt like had the pieces in place to potentially be a really good football team. And Chicago was obviously one of them. And so I was excited when it came about that this was the job that he really wanted, and this was the job that he was able to get. And I was excited when he wanted me to come along with him.
Where were you for the last 6 or 8 weeks of the season? Did you go to home base? Did you go on vacation? What did you do to kind of reset yourself?
Well, home base was still in New Orleans, but I spent a lot of time with my family. We did, we took a couple of vacations. I got away from football a little bit. Um, I'm not going to forget football in a couple of months. It's going to be there when I get back. So I just really wanted to take the time to do some things that you don't really get an opportunity to do a lot in our profession, and hanging out with family on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and taking a couple of vacations. So I did that. And once the first of the year rolled around, I started, getting my juices flowing a little bit and getting ready to get back going to work.
We'll go next to Adam Johns in The Athletic. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Dennis. I was curious what you make of Ben Johnson's offense just from facing it a couple of years ago. And then the second part of that question, like, what did Dan himself tell you about Ben in terms of what he likes to do and who he is?
Yeah, look, I think just facing the offense, the creativity in the offense, the way that he's able to utilize all of his assets and get him in the best position to have success. I was always really intrigued with how he was able to do that. And look, in terms of the guy, I mean, I knew that he was going to be a grinder, a hard worker, tireless, and I knew that he had a clear vision of what he wanted this team to look like, and I think that aligns with, you know, kind of what I think we should be, and how I think this team should be, and in particular how I want this defense to be.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Mark Grody from The Score.
Thank you. Hey, Dennis. I'm just curious about, you mentioned that you feel like there's a lot of pieces in place on the defense, and I'm kind of zeroing in on the defensive line. Does that mean that you think that the players are there and they just need that you can develop them, or do you think that there are personnel that needs to still be brought in to make that defensive line more effective?
Yeah, look, I think we're always looking for talent acquisition, player acquisition, guys that we feel like can come in and fit into our system, that can help us grow as a defensive line. But what our job is as coaches, our job is to develop, you know, and so we're going to take the pieces that we have in place. We're going to add the necessary ingredients that we need to create what we need to be able to do from a defensive standpoint. So I'm excited about working with the guys that we have, and I'm looking forward to working with, you know, Ryan and his staff to see if we can't find some pieces to add to it.
And then one other question too. You mentioned that you got away from football for a little while, which I'm sure is not uncommon for coaches, but I'm just curious about your aspirations, having been a head coach a couple of times. Are you now at the point in your career where you're comfortable being a coordinator and being a guy that helps out a head coach, or do you still have, you know, natural ambition for yourself to be a head coach again?
Well, look, I've always felt this way, be where my feet are. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to come here, the opportunity that Ben and the organization have given me to come here and be a part of this. And I'm going to do, my job is to do everything I possibly can to help these players play to the best of their ability, and to help our head coach, Ben Johnson, be successful. And that's my sole focus and my sole purpose for being here.
We'll go next to Adam Hogue of CHGO. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Dennis. The secondary that the Bears have here, a lot of good, talented young players. I'm just curious, when you watch the film of them, kind of how they fit ideally how you want your secondary guys to play.
Yeah, look, I think you know, when I came in here and I looked at the board and I really saw who we had, and you know, you get a chance to see what the measurables are. Like, I think there's a lot of things that I like. We've got some size and length at the corner position. I like the fact that they have some man coverage ability. You know, I think we've got some versatility at the safety position, and so I see the fit. I think, you know, Kyler Gordon, I think is an outstanding, you know, nickel player. So I have a vision for how, you know, we can utilize him. And so I think the foundation for what we want to do is there. And then I'm just excited about finally getting these guys in here and us having an opportunity to work with them and seeing exactly what we have. And then we've got to be creative on how we want to use them.
We'll go next to Courtney Cronin from ESPN. Go ahead, Courtney.
Hey, Dennis, how are you? Question just on overall philosophy of pressuring the quarterback, because I know it's something that evolved over the last couple of years in this defense, but the bottom line at the end of the day was that they didn't get enough pressure in sending four. How do you approach that as a play caller in utilizing different, you know, formations, obviously blitzing more heavily? Is that something you expect to be different from what you've seen in, I guess, your scouting of the Bears defense the last couple of years?
Well, look, I think that all remains to be seen. You know, we'll get all the guys in here and we'll figure out what we need to do. But I think, you know, Ben in his press conference made a great point that this has become a quarterback-driven league. I mean, that's what this league is. And so I think everything that we do is going to be based on how do we affect the quarterback. And you affect the quarterback through rush and coverage. And that's the pinnacle of what team defense is all about. And so we can be as great as we want to be covering everybody, but if we can't rush the passer, it's not gonna matter, and vice versa. If we can get to the passer quickly, but we can't, disrupt routes and be competitive on the line of scrimmage, then we're going to give up completion. So I think those two things have to be able to work together.
Perfect. We'll go next to Scott Bear from Marquee.
Dennis, how's it going? Welcome to the Bears, of course.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and just like, what are next steps? For you, I know that there are a few position coach availabilities open. Are you going to have some influence on that? And what else comes next before the players come in the building in April?
Well, look, it's a long process. I mean, I think right now the focus is, and Ben and I have been working together on, trying to put together the staff, finalize the staff, get those guys in place. Then we've got to do a deep dive into the personnel that we have, and then we've got to be able to give some direction and some clarity to Ryan and his guys in terms of what exactly are we looking for in each position, and then we'll get into the scheme and making sure that everybody's on board with what we're going to do from a schematic standpoint.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Chris Emma from 670 The Score. Go ahead, Chris.
Chris, you look like you're working that technology about like I do.
We'll come back to you, Chris. Just a second. We'll go to Matt Zahn from CBS.
Hey, Dennis, can you hear me?
I got you.
Well, obviously, about making the transition from a coordinator to head coach. This will be Ben Johnson doing this for the first time. What can you share with him, some of the challenges about that? And do you see that as part of your role here as sort of helping him as a first-time head coach?
Well, look, I'd say this. I'd say my job is to use all the experience that I have to help him be as successful as he can be. And so I don't look at it as my job is to go in there and tell him what I think he needs to do. My job is to be a sounding board for him. If he's got questions, if he's got things that he wants to run by me, I'll be glad to give him my opinion. But in my experience with him, I'm excited about this opportunity for him. He's fully prepared and fully capable of doing an outstanding job, and whatever he needs me to do, I'll be here to try to help him in any way I can.
We got two more. We'll go to Sean and then back to Chris.
Hi, Dennis. Welcome to Chicago. I know we're talking defense. I wanted to ask you, though, about your experience with Declan Doyle in New Orleans and what sort of stood out about him as a young coach trying to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing that stands out, the moment you meet him, the moment you talk to him, you sense a highly intelligent person, a guy that's been around the game, a guy that understands the game. He understands the game from a multitude of different perspectives. I just think he's a really good, bright young coach that has a really good future in front of him.
Last one, we'll go to Chris Emma.
Let's see, is it working now?
Yeah, we got you, Chris.
I promise I'm louder in person. I'm glad we're working this time. Of course, the two questions I had in mind were just asked. I'm going to follow up a little bit. When you were a first-time head coach in Oakland, how did it help you to have sounding boards around you with experience on your coaching staff, and how does that influence what you can do alongside that?
Yeah, look, I think at any level that you're at, having experienced people that I think sometimes we can learn through other people's trials and tribulations instead of having to go through them ourselves. I think that's a better way to learn. So I think anything that I can do to help him just from my own personal experience and what I went through as a first-time head coach, a second-time head coach. The challenges are there on a daily basis as a head coach. And so being able to deal with those as they come along, every day you wake up, you're coming into the office and you know that, there's going to be things that you're going to have to deal with. And then it's just really about how do you react to those things.
Perfect. That's all we got for you today, Coach. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing well. Go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm good to go.
You're good to go?
Shoot. Yep.
Perfect. We'll start with Dan Weedier. Go ahead, Dan.
HT, great to see you. How are you?
Doing great. Great to see you. How are you?
Good. First question for you. We haven't talked to you since the middle of week 18. Can you take us through the season-ending kick from your vantage point and what that moment was like to put the stamp on a season?
Dan, you know what? Thank you for that question. Obviously exciting time there, but my focus is really on the excitement of being here, working with Ben. Excited about everything that we got going forward and his passion and his commitment to teams. So definitely acknowledge the players doing a great job there, but our focus is, as always, going forward, going ahead, and all about the Bears from here on out.
Richard, as somebody that obviously has familiarity with the personnel currently, familiarity with the building, how in the early stages for Ben can you be a resource to him, to helping him kind of get everything settled around him?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, this is my third time with a first-time head coach. So obviously, when I came back to this regime, that was with a first-time head coach. My time in San Francisco, helping, Kyle Shanahan as a first-time head coach, getting that program turned around. I think I could be an asset. And the main thing is they feel I could be an asset, which I'm honored, to obviously George, Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, and Ben for believing in me. And I can't wait to help, onboard this process.
We'll go next to Courtney Cronin. Go ahead, Courtney.
Hey, Richard, what's been the process
Courtney.
like in terms of the last couple of weeks? Ben gets hired, the staff starts to gets formed. What were your interactions like? Have you had many in-person, virtual meetings just with the head coach that you're now going to be working with about the structure and plan for the off season for coordinators?
Yeah, I tell you what, when I sat down with Ben, it was clearly evident from the get-go that this was someone that I wanted to work with and somebody I wanted to work for and be a part of his staff. The players here, really enjoy the players here, really enjoy hearing Ben's vision. He was clear and concise from the get-go and very transparent about everything that was occurring. So his passion for special teams really was exciting to me. And not only for special teams, but connecting all three phases together, playing complementary football was just really exciting to me. So I'm excited to be back and help these guys reach the next level.
We'll go next to Pat Finley. Go ahead, Pat.
Hey, Coach. A lot of guys coming in to work with you are going to be in Chicago for the first time. What can you tell them about what makes working here unique? Do you have any advice for people stepping into a community that you've known for 3 years?
Yeah, well, exciting football town. That's what I would say. The love and the passion that our fans have for football and for the Chicago Bears here is unmatched with any other organization. I mean, it's just the best fans in the world. So to be able to come to a community where people care so much about football, and then not only come to a building that's run with football first in mind and helping the players succeed is the first thing I would say to them. And then from then on, it's up to us as coaches to develop the talent and get the most out of the players that we have and help them be better and reach their dreams.
We'll go next to Larry Mayer.
HT, how you doing? Long time no see.
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Good. You mentioned about Ben's vision and wanting to work for him. Can you expand on that a little bit? What type of vision is that, and why do you want to work for him so much?
Yeah, just really, Ben has an aggressive mindset, And I love that, really love his aggressive mindset and all of the things that he talked about he wanted to do. And really what people don't understand about special teams is when you have that aggressive mindset on special teams, quite really is what he's been around, But when you have that aggressive mindset on special teams, it helps the other two phases and helps your football team so much win games. So that was really intriguing and exciting to me. So I'm fired up for that.
How much do you anticipate that what you're going to be teaching and coaching, and even the way you're coaching it, will be different this year versus last year?
Yeah, I mean, the techniques and fundamentals, Larry, those will always be core principles and core values as we teach our players at all times. Technique and fundamentals are what wins games. So we're always going to be honed up on that, teaching everyone like it's day one, not taking anything for granted. But what I'm excited about and what the players are excited about, because they've been darn blowing my phone up, left and right, which is an honor. I'm grateful for that. They're excited about taking this thing to a next level. So I can't tell you how humbling it's been to get all the text messages from these guys, and just these dudes I can't wait to help these dudes reach the goals that they want to reach.
We'll go next to Scott Bear. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Coach. I guess I was just curious, as you look at the special teams guys who are currently under contract, do you see that kind of strong core that you can kind of build on and create that aggressive style of unit that Ben Johnson is looking for, in addition to having Cairo and Torrey?
Yeah, definitely, Scott. I think that, just talking to Ben has been outstanding. We talk every day, communicate every day, multiple times a day about personnel and about, what guys are really the guys that contributed, and speaking to guys that are obviously under contract. Those guys are really excited to come back and to work. So the great thing about it is he is engaged, and he's been engaged from the jump. So that's exciting, and these guys just need to take their aggressiveness to the next level. They've already been a really aggressive attacking unit at all times last year. Okay, but there are some areas where we feel like we can be more aggressive and take advantage of some things with Ben's vision and with Ben's mindset, which we're excited about.
Looks like we have 4 more. We'll go next to Mark Carmen.
Hey, Richard. Multiple players talked about wanting more accountability throughout the year. What's your role, do you think, in trying to bring that, this coming season?
Yeah, I mean, my role in that, Mark, it's a great question. My role in that is what it's always been. And in the special teams room, they're held to the highest standard, and they want to be pushed, and they're held accountable. And I love them. I put my arm around them, but I put my foot up there behind when I need to. So that's the real peek behind the curtain of what goes on in the special teams room. And the credit to those guys that they continue to play at a high level week in and week out, even with anything, you're always going to have adversity, but those guys in the special teams room rose to the challenge every week and were competitive as they could be. So they get held extremely accountable, and they know that. And really, Mark, that's all I know. My father, God rest his soul, but he held me accountable to everything that I said I was going to do as a man, and said that if you say you're going to do something, do it. If people expect something, then you need to demand it, and you need to step to the occasion when you say you're going to do something and be accountable for your actions. So really, that's all I know. So that's a great question, but that's all I know.
And hey, last one, Richard, thanks. Did you expect to be back?
Well, in this business, you never, ever know. I'm on a one-day contract. That's how I look at everything. And I've been looking at it for what, 19 years now, or what is coming up on, I think. I lose track of it. Maybe 18, 19, 20 years. I'm thinking on a one-day contract because I'm trying to get better every day, and I'm trying to help our players get better every day. So I don't think about where I'm going to be, any of that stuff. I just put my best foot forward, one foot in front of the other, and try to make people around me better.
We'll go next to Mark Grody. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, just Richard, how you doing? Just a follow up to Carm's question there in regards to you being back. I mean, it's really unique, when a new coach comes in and one of the coordinators is kept. So, can you take us behind the scenes a little bit more? Were you always coming back? Were they like, we got to have Richard back? How did this all come to be that you're back and the other two are not?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. Only thing I can speak to is my interactions with Ben, and I'm really grateful to Ben, like I said, and the whole organization. The McCaskey family, Ryan Pose, Kevin, George. I mean, I can't say enough about the way that their vision is and the way they want to run this organization. And on top of that, with Ben, and it's just magic. We hit it off from the jump when we talked and when he called, and uh, I'm grateful for his transparency. And all I want to do is help Ben Johnson win games. That's all I want to do. So the way that he dealt with that whole situation was phenomenal. My family and myself couldn't ask for more. So we just want to put dubs on the board for him.
We'll go next to Zach. Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Richard, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Zach. How are you?
Pretty good. You talk about the aggressiveness, and I'm just curious if you've been able to watch any of the playoff games. And it seems like there's been, more fake punts or more fakes or teams going for it on fourth down. What's kind of your thoughts on that in terms of the aggressive style of teams?
Yeah, I have that great question, and I have been able to watch the playoff games. Actually, I was watching one before I came down here, so I'm always looking for ways to get better and to help the players get better. But I like the aggressiveness. You talk about fourth down aggression. We know, how they kind of assembled that deal in Detroit and those things of those nature. So we're always studying the game. We're always studying that stuff. But it's funny you ask because I was watching playoff game before I came down.
We'll go last two, first to Adam and then to Dion. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Coach, good to see you. Kind of big picture on the idea of special teams coaches getting retained. It does seem like it happens more with special teams coordinators than maybe offense and defense. Just curious if you have any thoughts on why that might be.
Yeah, I really don't. That's more of a head coach question, But what I know, only the thing that I can tell you is that Ben and I have like minds, and we see the game the same, philosophy and vision the same. And he's someone I really wanted to work with and work for. And I take it that I was a person that he really wanted to work with. He was upfront about that from the get-go. So I'm just excited to be retained and excited to help these players get better. I really am. Like, I can't wait to get started with these guys.
Perfect. Last one, Dion.
Richard, it's great to see you. My question for you is, you've been in that locker room. I'm wondering where the confidence comes from, that what's been lacking in leadership has been found in Ben, and what you guys are going to be able to do moving forward.
Hey, Dion, I just know that there's a lot of excitement in the building, and I know there's a lot of excitement that I'm receiving from text messages. That's what I can speak to now in the future. And I know that, someone asked about Torrey and Cairo earlier. I know those guys are extremely confident. I know, Daniel Hardy's extremely confident. Cole, Komet, extremely confident. Just to name a few. They're extremely confident and they're extremely excited about what lies ahead. And I'm damn fired up about it too.
Coach, thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
First and foremost, I want to thank Ben Johnson and the rest of the Bears organization, obviously, for giving me the opportunity. I grew up in the Midwest, certainly very aware of the history with the Chicago Bears, and being here is a little bit surreal. I want to thank everybody in Denver with the Broncos organization, as well as the New Orleans Saints. Over the last 6 years, I've had a lot of people that have had huge impacts on me, and I wouldn't be sitting in front of you if they didn't impart knowledge and wisdom into me. I want to thank Coach Payton first and foremost, just because twice he's pulled me from relative anonymity. Once when I was 22 and I was at the University of Iowa. He gave me my first NFL job and allowed me to come into New Orleans and work for him for 3 years. Then I got a chance to be with Coach Allen for a year. When Sean went to Denver, I followed him out there, and he gave me a promotion, and I was able to be a position coach for the first time. And so, I've learned so much from Sean. He's a Hall of Fame head coach, and he's had a big impact on me and how I've ended up here. Certainly very excited for the opportunity to be here. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I can't wait to dive in with Ben and the rest of the offensive staff. My goal is to be as supportive as possible to Ben, our players, and be a resource in any way that I can be. It's an honor to be here, and looking forward to getting to work.
Perfect. We'll go first to Courtney Cronin from ESPN.
Hey, Declan, welcome to Chicago. 2 questions here. Number 1, you mentioned Sean Payton. What's the connection there? How did you first, I guess, link up with him to be brought onto that staff in New Orleans initially?
Yeah, so actually a guy by the name of Brendan Nugent, who actually was just in Seattle, he was the assistant O-line coach, and I knew him from kind of when I was a little kid. And he didn't know me at all as a coach, but I reached out to him when I was a student assistant at the University of Iowa, and I wanted to kind of basically get around as many NFL buildings as I could. And so I asked if I could come visit for OTAs. I was able to, I basically paid my own way. I was making, $7,000 at Iowa, but I paid for this plane ticket to go down there. And I spent 2 days around the staff, and they were gracious enough to allow me in there. I actually sat in Dan Campbell's meeting room while he was the tight end coach. And, that was my first exposure to those guys. And then, when Joe Brady left and he went to LSU, I actually kind of just threw my name in the hat, and there was a lot of people interviewing for, that offensive assistant and quality control role. And, I was fortunate enough to get an interview and go down there, and, it went well, and here we are.
And I know, I'm sure you've heard from press conferences, doing your research, what some of the players have said about last year, that they kind of demanded more accountability and wanted it from the coaching staff. Obviously, you're one of the younger coordinators in the league. You haven't coached every position on offense. How are you going to get the buy-in and be able to coach players who might either be older than you or might have more experience, and kind of as you're feeling your way out in your first time as an OC?
Yeah, I think knowledge is power, and that is what the guys care about ultimately. Last year was the first time that I've ever actually been older than all the players in my room. And so, I've been coaching, this is going to be my 10th year. But that's really kind of been a part of, my journey to this point. But I think players care about, can you help me first and foremost? Can you put me in a position to be successful to help the organization and my family? And that's earned, you have to put in the work and earn that trust and that confidence. And that's my plan here, hit the ground running and go to work.
We'll go next to Dan Weedier from the Chicago Tribune. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Declan, you obviously mentioned your time around Sean in 2 places. Obviously, he's a head coach who calls plays offensively. I'm curious what you learned the last 2 years about how Joe Lombardi was a resource for Sean in that relationship. And then you're obviously further removed in New Orleans, but Pete was a right-hand man for Sean for so long. What you've taken from those 2 guys that will help you help Ben?
Yeah, so those 2 guys are 2 people that I look up to a lot. They've had huge impacts on my life, Joe and Pete. And I was actually talking to Ben about that during the interview, because it was like, basically my entire time, 5 of my 6 years in the NFL, there's been this position that was Pete and Joe. The biggest thing is high levels of communication from, that position, the ability to utilize all the resources within the staff and give very direct, not only messaging, but direction to what we're trying to accomplish. The biggest thing is that you're on the same page as the play caller. And so me and Ben are going to have to spend a ton of time together, diving into film. And I'm really, really excited to go do that. And to make sure that I see the game the same way he sees it, to be able to orchestrate it and set the table for him, and, really make sure that we're doing it the way he wants to do it.
As a little bit of an extension of that, how do you sort of envision or describe the job description in season? Because Ben was very clear last week that it's a table setting role.
Yeah.
And there's things that he needs early in the week as he's overseeing everything else from you to help him get his week off to a good start.
Yeah. So first and foremost, you said table setting role. I think that's a great way to describe it. Ben is going to have less time than he's ever had as a play caller. And so, obviously I think that that's kind of a thing that's morphing as we go. We'll kind of figure out what that looks like. But my job is really going to be to organize and detail, the game plan initially, utilizing, our staff. Everybody will have different assignments, kind of how we are going to build this thing with schematically as we attack a defense. But basically, I have to do that work that he's not going to have time to do, and he's going to have to be able to trust me that I'm going to be able to give him the correct information that he needs as a decision maker. And then, really throughout the week, streamlining the teaching progression for the players, making sure that everything is built around them. Myself, Ben, and the rest of the staff, we're not going to take a snap this year. We have to make sure that our players understand their toolbox so that they can go out and play fast and play at a high level.
We'll go next to Pat Finley from Chicago Sun-Times. Go ahead, Pat.
Hey, Declan, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. From afar, what did you see in Caleb Williams that you're intrigued by, and what did you see in Caleb Williams that you're eager to get down and try to fine tune on the other side of that?
Yeah. So, obviously I didn't spend a ton of time, like I'm not in the same division. Like Ben got to see him on crossover film quite a bit. We're pretty early in the process. Obviously in the draft process, the arm talent it's crazy. I mean, it's very, very impressive. He's a very impressive player. I got to watch him a little bit when he was at USC. Didn't get a chance to watch him as much this past year. I've started to dive into him, but I wouldn't say that that's a full evaluation quite yet. I don't think that would be fair. I think the biggest thing is just the talent of the kid, the ability to use his legs. He is a tough kid. You see it on tape. Obviously the communication and all that stuff, but his second act, his ability to evade the pocket, his ability to create is a special thing. And it's something that I got to see with Bo in Denver last year. That ability to evade and put pressure on the defense and kind of be the eraser of game planning mistakes. I think that's really exciting about him.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll go next to Scott Bear from Marquee. Go ahead, Scott.
How's it going, Coach? In his introductory press conference, Ben Johnson talked about taking his scheme and kind of ripping it down to the studs and then rebuilding it around the talent that's on the roster. Two-part question. Number one, can you talk about your role in that process? And number two, are you excited about the prospect of kind of taking this system and really kind of helping these players maximize their talents?
Yeah. So I think that we'll all have a role in it, the whole staff, as we sit down and we kind of look at, like Ben has been great. He's basically like, hey, I want to take this thing and shape it around the personnel. I think our whole staff will be able to sit down and dig further into that. Can you repeat the second part of your question again, please?
Sorry, let me unmute him again.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott. Maybe not.
I think you said something about if I would be excited to do that. I would be I'm very excited to jump into it. Obviously watching Detroit from afar, there's a lot of similarities between what we did in New Orleans and Denver and the offense that he's built. I think it's really the modern version of that. And so I'm very excited to kind of sit down with Ben, discuss scheme, discuss things that fit our personnel and be able to shape this thing around the personnel that we have here.
We'll go next to Adam Johns of The Athletic. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Declan, kind of off that, I was wondering if you could take us through Bo Nix's rookie season a little bit, like what worked, what didn't work. How did you see his relationship with Sean kind of evolve? And then what did you learn? What did you gain from that experience that you could take here to Chicago?
Yeah, I think that's it's a little bit broad, you know what I mean? Like what was good, what was bad. I think that there's a progression to every step of this, and that is first and foremost mastering the language of it, mastering, being able to communicate and understand where the pieces are supposed to be and be able to envision those things. And I think Bo got better as the year went on and got more comfortable within the offense. we certainly tried to shape it around him. There were things that we did that were different than we had ever done, allowing him to try to evade the pocket and get out into space where he wanted to play. That was something that, we hit a big play against Kansas City late in the game on something that we had never, in previous years ever had before. And so I think first and foremost, like Caleb being in here, going through all of his tape, evaluating, what we feel like he's good at, what we feel like he's really capable of going out and being the best in the world at, excelling at it, and trying to shape and build the offense around that. I would say that's what we try to do with Bo, and that's what we're going to do here.
Last two, we'll go next to Sean Hammond of Shaw Media. Go ahead, Sean.
Hi, Declan. Welcome to Chicago. I was wondering if you could take us back in time a little bit, just about your decision to get into coaching. You were playing baseball at Iowa Western. Why did you sort of shift gears and head into coaching football?
Yeah, so I was around coaching my whole life. I grew up around it, and I really knew at some point in time I was going to want to coach football. I had a strong interest in that. The most important thing, like the reason I coach is people and the relationships and the ability to impact young people. And at the time it was going into college. I didn't know how good I would be at it. To be quite frank, if I wasn't very good at it, I would be coaching at a high school somewhere right now, probably, or a lower level. And that would be, this is my passion. That's why I did it. I wanted to be able to impact young lives and change people's lives. And so, I got into it. I got to Iowa, and I basically said, it's this or nothing. I don't have a plan B. I'm going to put everything I have into this. And I did that. And, obviously it has led us here.
What did that look like in terms of was that late hours? What does being a student assistant like look like? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's a very unique thing because very broad title there. Basically what a graduate assistant is or what a quality control is in the NFL, they're very similar. Yes, there's some late hours, but basically you're doing all the organizational things, especially early on in my time at Iowa. It was like, anything that nobody wanted to do, that was my job. And so learning, the game breakdown, how we were going to talk about defense, learning how to draw the playbook, basically being responsible for all the teaching material, because, we're teachers. And so being responsible for the teaching material, learning how that gets installed, all those things to try to put our guys in a position to have success.
Last one for you, Coach. We have Mark Carmen, CHGO. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Declan, just wondering, was this at all on your radar this year that you could get to this position? Were you thinking well, if Ben goes there, maybe he'll be calling me?
No, I would say not. I've always felt like you got to be the best in the world where your feet are. And that was what I was, aiming to do. I was trying to be the best tight end coach that I could be in Denver. I've been, preparing for this job, from the very beginning. The last 10 years have kind of culminated in, arriving here. But no, I mean, this is something that, I'm very excited about. I'm very excited to be here, but I wasn't, sitting there looking out the front of the car, looking at the next thing. I was really just trying to focus on, I was really proud of, what we did in Denver. Vegas had us at 5 wins and we ended up being a playoff team. And, to be able to turn a program around like that, it takes, focus on the goal at hand. And that's what I was focused on.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.